Japan Deep Dive Report e yokoso. Okay, so what if I told you that the entire origin story of a whole country, its gods, its very first emperors, its soul, was once held inside the memory of just one person? It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, right? Well, today we are diving deep into that incredible story. The story of the Kojiki, Japan's book of beginnings. So just think about that for a second. How does a nation write down its very first stories? I mean, we're talking about a time way before official records, way before printing presses. How do you keep those essential myths and memories from just vanishing? For Japan, the answer is found in this single incredible book. It's kind of part history, part myth, and honestly, all magic. A book of beginnings. Right, so let's get into it. That answer, that incredible book, is called the Kojiki. And look, this isn't just some dusty old document. We're talking about the absolute bedrock of Japanese identity. This is the text that has shaped, well, pretty much everything: religion, art, politics, for more than 1,000 years. So the name itself, Kojiki, literally means record of ancient matters. And when we say ancient, we mean it. It was finished way, way back in the year 712. Now, just to be clear, this isn't just an old book. It is the oldest surviving book in Japan. Full stop. It's the ground zero for Japanese history and for Japanese literature. And this is where the Kojiki gets really fascinating, because it has this incredible double life. On one hand, it's totally a history book. I mean, it was a political project, right? The whole point was to legitimize the emperors by saying, hey, look, our family line goes all the way back to the gods. But then, on the other hand, it's this stunning piece of literature. It's packed with these wild creation myths, epic legends, and honestly, some of the most beautiful poetry, or kayo, ever written. An emperor's grand mission. So you might be wondering, how does a book like this even happen? It's not like one person just sat down and wrote it. No way. This was a huge, multi-generational project, and it all started with one emperor who had a very big idea. Okay, so get this. The whole thing starts with Emperor Tenmu. He looks around and sees that the nation's history is just a mess. It's scattered across all these different texts like the Teiki and Kyuji, and the stories are all contradicting each other. So he decides he needs one single official version. His solution? Absolutely wild. He finds a court attendant named Hida no Are, who apparently had a truly phenomenal once-in-a-generation memory. And he gives them this monumental task: memorize everything. All of it. The genealogies, the myths, the legends. But then, and here's the crazy part, the emperor dies before the project can be written down. So for years, the entire foundational story of Japan exists only in the mind of Hida no Are. It's not until years later that a new ruler, Empress Genmei, says, okay, we need to get this on paper, and she orders a scholar named Ono Yasumaro to sit down and write out everything that Hida no Are recites from memory. I mean, just let that sink in for a moment. The entire foundational text of a nation recited from memory. We're talking about all the epic myths, the sacred family trees, the soul of the country story. All of it was just held in one person's head for years before anyone wrote it down. That is just an absolutely mind-blowing feat of memory. Gods, emperors, and poetry. So what exactly did Ono Yasumaro write down? Well, the Kojiki is really neatly organized into 3 volumes. Think of it like a journey that takes us from the birth of the cosmos all the way down to the imperial court. The first volume is called The Age of the Gods, or Kamio, and this part is pure epic mythology. You get the creation of heaven and earth, you get the stories of the gods Izanagi and Izanami stirring the ocean with a spear to form the islands of Japan. It's just amazing stuff. But then, you hit volumes 2 and 3, and we shift into the Age of Humans, or Hitoyo. This is where we come down to earth. The story starts following the line of human emperors, beginning with the legendary Emperor Jimmu. And as you go on, especially in that last volume, the stories become more and more realistic, more like the history we can actually verify. The language of ancient Japan. Okay, so writing all this down, it wasn't as simple as just picking up a pen. The creators of the Kojiki faced a massive technical problem, and the solution they came up with was, frankly, genius. Here's the problem. At that time, Japan had a rich spoken language, but no writing system of its own. None. The only characters they had access to were Chinese characters, or kanji. So it was like trying to write English using only, a set of symbols from a completely different language. They had to figure out a way to make it work, and they got very creative. So take a look at this string of characters on the screen. This is the very first poem that appears in the Kojiki. Now, if you know Chinese, your first instinct might be to try and read what the characters mean, but you'd be going down the wrong path. See, this isn't about meaning. It's a secret code. It's all about sound. And this brilliant system they invented is called Manyogana. Here's how it worked. The scribes basically ignored the meaning of the Chinese characters. Instead, they used each character to represent a sound, a syllable in spoken Japanese. So that string of characters we just looked at, it's not gibberish. It's a phonetic puzzle that, when you read it aloud, becomes the first line of a beautiful poem, Yakamotatsu Izuma Yaigai. So why is this one poem such a huge deal? Well, because this is considered the very beginning of waka, the entire tradition of classical Japanese poetry. Think about that. And it gets even cooler. That very first word, Yakumo, which means 8 clouds, actually became a poetic nickname for the art of waka itself. So, right there in the Kojiki, you have the birth of a literary tradition that would last for over 1,000 years and echo through time. But you see, the story of the Kojiki doesn't just stop in the year 712. Not even close. Its journey through history is almost as dramatic as the myths inside it. It's a wild tale of being lost, then rediscovered, and completely reborn. 600. For 600 years, the Kojiki basically disappeared. The original manuscript that Ono Yasumaro so carefully wrote down from Hida no Are's memory, it's gone. It has never been found. It just vanished from history. So everything we know today, it all comes from this one copy. It's called the Shinpukuji Bon, and it was written in the 14th century. That's a full 600 years after the original was made. It's just a stunning reminder of how fragile history can be, and how incredibly close we came to losing this entire foundational text forever. It's no wonder this manuscript is now protected as a national treasure of Japan. Okay, so let's fast forward a few hundred years to the Edo period. This is the long era of the shoguns, from the 1600s to the mid-1800s. And this is when the Kojiki gets its big comeback, thanks to a scholar named Motoori Norinaga. This guy becomes absolutely obsessed with it. He spends decades, basically his whole life, decoding its ancient language and writes a mind-boggling 44-volume commentary on it called the Kojiki Den. For him, the Kojiki wasn't just an old book. He believed it held the key to Japan's true way, a pure Japanese spirit free from any foreign influence. And his work was a game changer. It fundamentally shaped modern ideas about Japanese identity, about the native religion of Shinto, and it continues to inspire artists and writers to this. Which brings us to one final, really provocative question. Since the original is lost forever, and we're relying on copies that are themselves centuries old, what might have changed? What stories could have been miscopied or misunderstood or maybe even just left out on purpose? What parts of Japan's very first story are gone for good, just floating out there somewhere between memory and the written word?